Is the U.S. hiding psychic operatives in plain sight? Well, in this psychic energy reading, we tune in to uncover whether the United States or any world government is secretly using psychic spies. Well, the truth may in fact be stranger than fiction. Hey guys, I'm Faye, and I am, in fact, a psychic, an intuitive, an energy reader, and a medium. And this is Solar Flow, where clarity meets intuition and insight cuts through illusion. This channel is your trusted guide for decoding energy and uncovering the unseen forces and deeper truths that are shaping our world. So if that sounds good to you and you're new here, I invite you to subscribe. Now, before we get into the psychic energy read to explore if the United States government, or in fact any government, employs psychics, we're first going to begin by touching upon what, in fact, according to Google, is a psychic. So here we go. According to Google, a psychic is someone who claims to possess extrasensory perceptions, also known as ESP, or other abilities that allow them to access information beyond the normal range of human senses. They claim to be able to predict the future, that's called clairvoyance, read minds, that's telepathic abilities, or communicate with spirits, which is also mediumship abilities. However, according to Google, to date, none of this is confirmed to be real. Now, also according to Google, in the past, the United States government, as well as the Soviet Union, had funded research into psychic abilities for potential use in intelligence gathering and warfare. This research was driven by Cold War competition. The most well-known United States government program was called Project Stargate. And if you've seen the movie with James Spader named Stargate, maybe you have some questions about the significance of the name. Because I do, but maybe that's a video for another day. Anyway, the most well-known United States government program was called Project Stargate, which operated over 2 decades from 1970 until 1995, which focused on remote viewing, a purported ability to perceive distant or hidden information through psychic means. While some in the program claimed success, a 1995 CIA review concluded it failed to produce actionable intelligence and recommended its termination. But if you're here, you may have far different experiences with these so-called gifts and abilities. And also, if you're here, it might in fact be because you know that I have these so-called gifts and abilities. So let's tap into the goods that my guides had brought and break down if currently today in 2025, when I am recording this video, if either the United States government or any government around the world still currently employs psychics. So here we go. Now, I'm just going to remind you all that as a psychic, don't tell Google we're real. As a psychic, I channel in advance and I write down copious amounts of notes of everything that comes in. And frankly, the amount of information that comes in is far beyond the scope of anything I myself could remember. So you will see me reading from my notebook, and I have about 7 pages of notes on this subject alone. So if you're wondering, what am I reading from? It's my notes. It's the goods that the guides have brought into me. So here we go. Are there psychic spies working for either the United States government or any government worldwide? Once I had looked into the energy of it, it was shown to me that this is both a yes and a no answer. Because first of all, it depends what government are we talking about. And it also depends on what gifts and abilities they are seeking to exploit of the psychics that they are in fact working with. But also it's a no because since in fact the cabal controls all the governments around the world, as in we are in fact a one world government unbeknownst to us, they aren't trying to develop the skills for spying on another country, but more to understand and then therefore to exploit it. So let's break all of that down. So as I have compared the cabal in some of my other content, imagine that they are a general in an army, as in they call the shots and they hand down the orders to their lieutenants. So look at each country's government as if it's in fact a lieutenant, not as in it's its own entity and it has its own leaders and it makes its own rules and its own laws based on the wishes of the people that are electing their governance into office. So instead of looking at it as its own entity, look at it like it's in fact nothing more than just a lieutenant of one general. Following that idea of each country being a lieutenant, do all lieutenants get the same orders from the general, or are they given different orders to carry out different things? It's the exact same thing here. So whichever lieutenant, or as in whatever country, receives the orders to explore certain gifts and abilities, they do. But certainly not every lieutenant is going to receive that order. But what was shown to me is the lieutenants or the countries that have received this order and have in fact been exploring psychic gifts and abilities are the United States, Australia, Canada, Brazil, and even Vietnam. Now, if I did not say another country, it does not in fact mean that other countries are not working on exploring gifts and abilities. It's just to say that it is to a much smaller extent that when I was psychically scanning the globe to see which countries lit up, these departments in other countries may in fact be so small that I do not even see a heat pattern indicating energy work is being done there. But the countries that were very lit up, as in the countries that have big programs in which they are currently exploring psychic gifts and abilities, are again the United States, Australia, Canada, Brazil, and Vietnam. But again, these countries that are in fact exploring it are not developing the psychic gifts and abilities of the psychics that they are working with to spy on other countries. That would be the equivalent to one lieutenant spying on another lieutenant in the exact same army. So once we understand that all countries and all governments, and in fact all leaders, have been run by the cabal, all world conflict starts to look very different and indeed very scripted, and that's in fact because it is. So then you may be wondering if the intention of having these programs is not in fact to spy on another government or another country at all. Why do these countries have these programs where they're exploring the various different gifts and abilities? Well, simply put, they seek to control it. And to control it, they have to first understand it. And if you're wondering, why do they want to control people's gifts and abilities? Well, all gifts and abilities come from the other side. As in, our gifts and abilities come from the spirit realm. And just as we are the cosmic scriptwriters of our life experiences in any particular life that we choose to incarnate into, we can also decide what gifts and abilities do we want to have, and to what degree and to what extent do we want to be able to work with them. So because all of our gifts and abilities come from the spirit realm prior to us being born, that's an indication that our gifts and abilities are in fact divine. And because our gifts and abilities are divine, that's why the Cabal wishes to control it and in fact stop us from developing it. This is because Team Darkside, by aligning themselves with Satan, has stepped away from God. Therefore, they are disconnected from their own gifts and abilities. And because they are disconnected from their gifts and abilities, they don't want us to be connected to ours. But also, Team Darkside wishes to trap our consciousness in the 3D material plane. And the awareness and the connection to our gifts and abilities, in fact, will help our consciousness ascend. Now, this is also going to explain why a lot of spiritual gurus live very minimalistic lives. And that is, in fact, because their mind and therefore their attention is not really here at all, but is more connected to the divine realm and the other side. So they don't want us all to ascend and be spiritual gurus, because then our attention will no longer be trapped in the 3D material plane, but will in fact be on the other side, which threatens them and their need for control. Now, what are some other ways that we may have seen either the United States government or any government around the world attempt to disconnect us from our gifts and abilities? Well, in the past, before they understood what in fact it was, but just knew that they were threatened by it, they sought to disconnect us from it by telling us if we hear voices, which is in fact clairaudience, a gift and ability. So if you hear voices, you get labeled with either being schizophrenic or having schizoaffective disorder. And hey, here's a pill for that. This pill, which is said to either stop the schizoaffective disorder or the schizophrenia from taking over a person's life, happens to in fact calcify their pineal gland, which, guess what, does in fact disconnect them from their gifts and abilities. And another way in which this would have shown up is through movies. They depict people with gifts and abilities as either being superheroes, as in it's not rooted in reality and not even a little bit, or that they come from other planets. As in, if you were born on planet Earth, there's no way you have gifts and abilities. Lastly, it's through the depiction of people having special gifts and abilities because they are perhaps bitten by a radioactive spider. So if you yourself have not been recently or ever bitten by a radioactive spider, you don't have gifts and abilities. But go further back than just modern day times, as in go way, way, way the fuck back. And is the Bible or any religious text not full of man communing with God? So did Moses not go up to a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights to commune with God and to receive the 10 Commandments? Go back even before that. Did Moses not have divine communication with God when he was negotiating with Pharaoh to let his people go? Did Abraham not commune with God, and was he not directed that all Jewish baby boys were to have circumcisions? And according to the religion of Islam, Mohammed too had received divine communication with God. Did Noah not receive a directive from God to build an ark? So are we to believe that these men were in fact nothing more than crazy? Were they all in fact undiagnosed schizophrenics? Well, if they were, it's a shame that we didn't have a pill for all of this back then. Because if we did, then today no Jews would be circumcised, and all Jews would still be slaves in Egypt. There would be no 10 Commandments, there would be no religion of Islam, and in fact, there would not be any people in the entire world because we all would have drowned in the flood. So let me guess what the naysayers are going to say about that. We're just not as holy as they were, right? And because they were far holier than we are, that's why they could commune with God, but we can't. Well, I call fucking bullshit. Here's why. We are all the children of God. We are all holy and we are all worthy, and in fact, we are all gifted. Not just the psychics that you see on YouTube, but you too. All of us have varying different gifts and abilities, and all to different degrees. And because of the fact that we are in fact all God's children, we are all worthy, we are all holy, and we are also in fact all gifted, oh boy is the Cabal, and more specifically the 13 bloodline families, getting savvy to this, which is why they are now studying it and seeking to stop it. And if you want to know, what are they studying so that they can control it, as in stop it? Well, it was shown to me that here in the United States, they are specifically studying astral travel and remote viewing, as well as mental telepathy. For my friends that are viewing in from Australia, it was shown to me that there they are developing the same, as in they are exploring astral travel, remote viewing, and mental telepathy. In Vietnam, they are working on telekinesis, but it was also shown to me that Vietnam, they are also working on melting metals or organic material with the mind. And for my South American friends, specifically those in Brazil, they are working on physical teleportation. And for my northern-based friends in Canada, they are trying to get people's physical bodies to become translucent or invisible. And if you're one of my channel members and you notice that I did not call out Russia, and we in fact know from the video that I had done on Vladimir Putin, they do in fact have a psychic program there. There are in fact 2 countries that have secret programs, as in they've gone rogue. Because remember, I had shared at the top of the video, every country around the globe is in fact run by one world government, i.e. the Cabal. So there are 2 countries, as in China and Russia, that have gone rogue and are secretly developing the programs unbeknownst to the Cabal. As in they are working on these outside of the purview of the Cabal. And while it was shown to me what China is working on, I don't know what this gift and ability is called. But it was shown to me that they are testing a person's ability to mentally influence another person with their mind. So this would be akin to mental manipulation. And Russia was shown to me as in fact being so advanced that they have mastered all of these gifts and abilities and more since as early as the 1980s, and they have one of the most advanced psychic development programs that I myself have ever seen. Be right back, gotta go move to Russia. So Russia has mastered everything the other countries are only now starting to work on. And they have even mastered the ability to energetically block out prying eyes altogether and mask energetic blueprints. As in, psychic gifts and abilities leave some sort of a fingerprint behind, so they have actually determined a way to block out the fingerprint that is left behind. So as in, psychics in Russia could in fact be spying on another country or another government, or even looking into the psychic gifts and abilities programs that another country has, and that country and that government would be none the wiser because there would not be any fingerprint left behind to alert them to the fact that a psychic had even been there at all. And if you're curious, what does this mean for all of us? Especially us psychics that know the truth, that there in fact are gifts and abilities and we all already have them? Well, just like I had shared in my video on Pope Leo, where I had said there will be a religious renewal, similarly too, it was shown to me that there will in fact be a renewal of people reuniting with our various different gifts and abilities. Now, it was also shown to me that many new gurus and teachers will pop up and train people on working with and developing their own gifts and abilities, such as myself. But despite the upcoming renewal, at this time anyway, I only see, and again, this is subject to change because anything that plays out in the future is only a potential and not an absolute. But at this point anyway, the potential of what was shown to me is only about 20 to 25% of the population will start to work with their gifts and abilities, or embrace their gifts and abilities. But it was also shown to me that in order for this to occur, the oldest generation must first exit the earth, as their vibration is far too dense and fixed, that generation existing on the globe alone is preventing the full extent of this psychic energy to load onto the earth plane. So in order for the fullness of psychic gifts and abilities to be embraced, anybody currently above the age of 80 would be exiting planet Earth. And while I know that that sounds terrible and scary and potentially catastrophic, I am going to remind you that Earth is always seeking balance. So this would be no exception to the rule of Earth seeking balance, and is also not in fact a tragedy of the oldest generation leaving Earth, as those souls prior to incarnating knew what they were signing up for and knew that they were going to be born into a world in which they would arrive at a certain location, but they would go no further. So imagine you're on a bus with a bunch of people, and some people are just getting off the bus before you are. It doesn't mean that it's a tragedy that they're getting off the bus before you. It just means they have a different destination. But now imagine it's not physical bodies on a physical bus, but it's spiritual souls deciding to leave Earth. They just have a different destination that their soul wants to go to. Till here, but no further. It's not in fact a tragedy, it's just an exercise of our free will determining where ourselves want to go on a soul level. But you and me, as in anybody that is watching this video that is below the age of 80, our souls chose a far different experience and a different mission, as in to witness and to be part of the Great Awakening. So not as in till here but no further, but as in till here and all the motherfucking way. As in our souls chose to be awake, to be aware, to be gifted, and maybe in fact some of us will even be the gurus and the spiritual Sherpas beckoning in the new generation and leading us to enlightenment. So that is what I have for you on if governments around the globe are currently employing psychics. I hope that you guys have found this video to be maybe interesting or insightful. I remind you to please take what resonates, leave the rest behind, and as always, and until next time, Stay in that high vibration.